Good morning, everyone. We're continuing here in KITZUR HILCHOS SHABBOS. We're in the Malach of Bayra, separating, and we're talking about the ways in which it's permitted to do Bayra, to make some kind of a separation. And this is called Bayra B'yad, when you separate with your hand. Yesterday we mentioned the heter, the permissibility, the leniency that we have of separating the food from that which you don't want. Samach la'achila, when it's close to the eating, when you're going to eat. So dafki and boyer biyad, that's only if you make a separation with your hand. Shezeh nikra derech achila, that's called eating. Aval bekli, but if you use a kli, you use a utensil to make that separation, ein heter, there's no leniency over there. Shezeh nikra derech malacha, because that's already called the malacha, the action itself. The way that it was done in the Mishkan was with utensils. It was done with kalim, with vessels, and therefore, if you do it with a utensil, so you're replicating the malacha that was done in the Mishkan, and therefore that would be asa. But if you separate the good from the bad with your hand, that's not the malacha of bayr. Therefore, you're allowed to do that. Now, kevin shebayim kan lachalik beheter shel samach leseuda. Since that we're coming here to make a distinction between the heter, the permissibility that we have of samach lesuda, of doing it close to when you're going to eat, bein al yidei kli, or if you do it with a kli, with a vessel, or beyada, you do it with your hand. Mitam shal yidei kli loy nikra derech achila. When you use this vessel, you use the utensil, it's not called the way of eating. Im yesh oifen shegam al yidei kli. However, says the KITZUR, if you'd have a way in which by using the kli, the utensil, yederech achila, that's the way to eat, as matirim gam levoyer al yidei kli, then you'd even be allowed to do bayris, make the separation of the food from that which you don't want with a kli, with such a utensil. And therefore he explains, v'hainu mashe matirim lecho b'mazleg, this that we allow you to eat with a mazleg, a fork, v'sakin, a knife, ubekaf, or a spoon, even though that you are using them to separate the food from the psailis, the good from the bad. Tam, you're allowed to do the it's a utensil. Normally we're saying you cannot use the utensil. Since the way of eating a meal is by using these kelim, using these utensils, most civilized people eat with forks, knives, and spoons. You're not obligated to eat with your hands. So this is obviously a very important part of the malacha and the halacha to be able to understand, and that is that you're allowed to borer, you're allowed to separate the the good from the bad, when it's samach lesuda, which means that it's close to the meal itself that you're going to eat, and even though that the halacha states that you have to do it biyad, with your hands, that doesn't mean your hands literally. It means anything that's an extension of your hands as well. And since in the civilized world that we live in, it is normal for a person to eat with their fork, their knife, and their spoon, therefore that becomes an extension of your hand, and you're able to use that for the sake of bayr. That's why if you need to separate, for example, the skin from the meat of the chicken, or the chicken from the bone, so you're allowed, of course, to use your fork and your knife to be able to accomplish that. You don't have to rip it apart with your hands. So this is a good heter, a good leniency, permissibility for a person to know. Two things. Number one, samach l'seuda, right before you're about to eat, that's when you're allowed to make the separation. And number two, as we're saying, you can use utensils that are considered to be extensions of your hands, and that way you can continue to eat civilized while you are doing the permissible ways of bayr. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and we will continue Be'ez Hashem next week. All the best.